surprised you most after reading this article?
How many words used probably, and like how many words didn't fully explain the title of the story. Like, so in the second line it says, not only that fresh cuts of red meat probably cause cancer too. Probably doesn't mean it does. They don't. It didn't really hook me right away. I didn't get it.
Yeah, I agree with Logan, just because he never seems certain about his ideas. He always seemed like probably and like and those words.
Yeah.
He put them in just to almost skew everything, and it didn't seem like he was sure of his answers.
What really surprised me was how biased the author was, because he didn't bring up any information about the other side of things, like how they give good benefits and how like huge percentages of proteins come from meats. He just talked about the bad things about it, and he didn't like get into any of the other side. Like he says, 7 out of 15 scientists saw connections between this. Well, don't talk about the other 8 out of 15.
Yeah, so another thing that surprised me a lot was he put these red meats and processed meats in the same category as like weed killer and drugs.
Mm-hmm.
He said that in the article, which I don't think he should have at all. What was your opinion on that?
I thought those comments just kind of seemed like deceptive. Like he was trying to like push your mindset into a different place. When later when he was answering the questions asked, he said, well, they're not really in the same category. They just can both cause cancer. And so it felt like he was just trying to really like sneak that in there and try to change your mindset.
Another thing too, I think the author actually hurt the passage by bringing up facts, because most of her facts, even though she said that it was cancer in the meats, the facts actually kind of pointed towards no connection, considering 8 out of 15 said there was no and 7 out of 15 said there was.
Yeah.
So that's actually no connection, since there's more studies about no connection.
I agree with Kyle. Like even on a personal level, when she put in statistics like that didn't make sense. It made me like believe the passage less, and like even if stuff was true, I wouldn't like believe that actually was true because she wasn't using good evidence before.
Yeah, I agree with Josh. The evidence was bad. In the end of the passage, I mean, there's no organization, so near the end of the passage, they were talking a little bit more about details, which did make me think a little bit more about it. But it didn't talk about the red and processed meat as a whole. It just talked about what ways are hazardous if you cook them a certain way, not the red meats as a whole.
Exactly, like she said, it might exclude the PAHs that you get from cooking at too high of a temperature. What if you just cook it normally and slowly and all the way through, being careful about it, not eating it like red meat and raw?
Yeah, they base all of it, I noticed, on just raw red meat, and then it kind of snuck in some cooked meat facts, but it was mostly about raw meat and processed meats.
So this statement right here really shows that like it's not connected. So it says the scientists said the strongest evidence supported as a casual link between the consumption of these meats and the risk of cancer. So it doesn't have any facts to explain that the scientists like have the strongest evidence that the meats and risk of cancer are a strong link.
Yeah,
It
I
just,
definitely saw that.
just says that there is a link, but
Yeah.
they don't provide any facts that want to make me believe that there's any link at all.
Yeah.
What different evidence did you find about why processed meats are unhealthy?
I didn't find any things about processed meat and unhealthy. Like I said, I found all things about dangerous chemicals that pop up when you cook them the wrong way. But they never said why processed meat is actually unhealthy.
Yeah, the only thing I found at the end of the passage was the PAHs, which are chemicals they put into the meats, but that's the only thing I found.
And I think this person is also really biased because it says having less meat on your plate might make extra room for vegetables, fruits, whole grains, and legumes. So all of the saturated fat increase fiber and deliver antioxidant vitamins. So he's saying that he only wants us to eat vegetables and fruits. So he's not even giving any good thing about meat in
Yeah,
this
but
whole entire passage.
he did actually say that fish and those different lighter meats, which are not red, he said that those were healthier meats that you should be eating.
Yeah, but those weren't in the title of the paragraph either, or
Yeah.
the passage.
He just kind of
So,
snuck those
yeah,
in.
he just snuck them in.
And
It's not
again,
even
yeah,
in
it
the
almost
paragraph.
seems like he's biased because it almost seems like the author doesn't even eat meat. Considering it didn't.
I know.
He did. If he said that fish was healthier, well, you could also come back with, well, fish can have mercury in it,
Yeah.
and that's just as bad as the 18%. It can increase if you eat a ton of meat in one day.
Yeah, and if you cook it wrong, like they said for red meats, or if
Mhm.
they, fillet the fish wrong, it could all come out the same way.
Yeah.
Do you think the author did a sloppy job on organizing this article?
Yes. Very.
What he does is like in each like group of paragraphs, he like states something, and then in the next group, he repeats it in a different way, and it goes through that almost the entire passage, just doing that with the state it, repeat it in some way different way. And so he just brings up these facts again, and if you like don't believe some of the facts, he's gonna repeat those facts again, which makes it even less effective.
Did you even think about all the risks that come with eating processed meats and red meats before you read this?
I did.
I didn't. I mean, it's especially processed meats. You don't know what they make out of it.
Yeah, I thought about it, but I never really dug into the big details behind it,
Yeah. And
like
they,
all the cancer.
and this didn't even provide that it was unhealthy, and it didn't provide the ingredients in it
Yeah.
much. So you don't really know what they're talking about. to be
I
honest.
think that he left out a point that all processed meats, like every company makes it a different way. So
Yeah.
he's kind of just looking at processed meat as one whole,
With all
when
of
it's
those.
processed meat can be a variety of things.
Yeah, I think the author used way too many probablys or may or like, because he used 3 probablys, and then he said about the processed meat, it may use things like pork or
Yeah.
just beef. He didn't like research that if it was for sure or not. He was going off of almost theories instead of facts for the whole entire passage.
Yeah. So can we change gears here? I thought, so what parts of the story made you stop and think about how we can help the cause of eating too much red meats or processed meats, if he's correct?
One of the things I found was like, in part of the section he just talks about the differences between healthy meats and processed meats. And one of them was processed meats were much cheaper and more affordable to everybody, which he said was the big problem with the cause, which was like United States, Europe, Australia, and Japan mostly. And I think one thing we do if these were harming us is we could change the prices on things. And so people who can't afford fish, which is a more expensive dish, usually buy processed meats, which are less expensive, and processed meats coming from this restaurants. If we change what's in the restaurants and change the prices, I think we could have a lot better success.
Well, that might change. That if they can't afford that still, then that might leave people with less options.
Yeah, most people who get processed meat get it out of convenience. Like, it might be cheaper or more readily available than instead of just going and buying meat. Like, if you get a pound of processed meat, it could be like $3 cheaper than a pound of just actual beef and steak or pork.
Yeah, I don't think anybody even thinks about getting the more expensive one because they just go in there wanting to eat and then buy the cheaper one. And that brings me to the statement where it says, when we're hungry, few of us are capable of exercising the kind of cognitive control that would enable us to follow the WHO's advice. Which is saying, like, few of us are capable of, like, stopping, thinking about it, and then buying the better option.
Yeah.